This week on the Rockman Power Hour, we are joined by two actors from the cast of Thanksgiving, Eli Roth's new slasher fest that started out as a trailer in 2007, and it's finally made its way to the big screen. You don't want to miss this. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Rockman Power Hour, a podcast where we talk to the most interesting people in the world of pop culture. We're very excited because Ryan and I were lucky enough to see a movie that I had been anticipating ever since I saw the preview for it. And I know, Ryan, you've been excited about it as well. And that, of course, is Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. There's a lot of folklore around this movie because it originally started out as a Grindhouse trailer when Tarantino and Rodriguez were doing those Grindhouse films.
Planet Terror and Death Proof.
Right. So this is the one that got greenlit and this has been made. There's a lot of other ones. There's speculative, there's speculation that they might come later on, but I think this took, how long did it take to make? Do I dare say 20 years?
Just it would take a long time. And, it's kind of interesting that you say it took so long because a lot of horror is timeless in a way. So even if it did feel, to me, it almost feels, this film feels like a I Know What You Did Last Summer type film, where the entire time, or Scream, like the mass killer, like Friday the 13th Part 1, who's doing it? Because in a Jason Voorhees movie, like in all the other ones are like Jason, but in that first one, it's like, who's doing all this killing? So I love that. I love not knowing. I'm like, who is doing this? And that's a large part of why this movie kept me on the edge of my seat.
All right, so here we go. The trailers that were in the original Grindhouse from 2007, okay? This is the third feature that was adapted from one of those trailers. The first one was Machete, which of course became 3 films. Right. Robert Rodriguez Machete, and then Jason Eisner's Hobo with a Shotgun.
Oh, right.
In 2011. So this trailer dropped in 2007, and here we are 16 years later, and we are finally getting it. And this was Eli Roth's trailer, mock trailer, Thanksgiving. Okay, listen, the cast, great. Patrick Dempsey's awesome. Gina Gershon, Rick Hoffman, and there's a ton of new kids that are in there, and it's
not of the block, not
of the block. Yeah. So we're joined by Jeff Teravainen. He plays a deputy in the film who is part of the law enforcement in Plymouth, Massachusetts, that is trying to figure out what is going on here on this Thanksgiving weekend. He plays Deputy Bret Labelle in Thanksgiving, and we're very, very excited to have him on with us. I think it's really cool, Ryan, because we didn't expect this to happen. We kind of just went to see the movie, and we were like, all right, well, we're going to talk about the movie. They asked us if we'd be down to, to reviewing the film and to spread the word about the movie. It always helps when you like something. And you and I very much like this, I think, right?
Very much so. I felt like I was going to say it like a kid again, because I watched a lot of horror movies when I was a kid, but also I was a teenager in that sweet spot in the 90s when that horror revival was happening with Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and House on Haunted Hill was coming out. So it wasn't just slashers. It was also like real throwbacks to other horrors movies too. And there was a remake of My Bloody Valentine, a lot of remakes too, but I got to say, like, the cast was really cool. Like, the douchebags are super douchebags, which is a good throwback to like 80s bullies.
Yeah.
So Eli Roth, clearly, this is a love letter to slasher horror films, and it's a good story, and it's extremely well done. And like Friday the 13th, what made that franchise famous, despite the fact we all knew Jason was doing it, we still kept going back because the way he would do all the kills was very creative, and that's really was like the killer effect of Friday the 13th. And I think that was brought in this as well, because it's not just like stab, walk away. There's some interesting ways of how to kill a motherfucker on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's crazy because when you think of the whole idea of a holiday killer, You know, I love films that are rooted in a holiday.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Love, I know you do.
All right.
Trick or Treat.
Yeah.
Obviously Halloween, of course.
Yeah.
The OG. But I love the Canadian ones like Black Christmas. I absolutely love, one of my favorites of all time is My Bloody Valentine.
Another very clever thing is the use of the cell phones as kind of like as an element to introduce horror, and not an easily escapable situation in which if you went back in time and dropped a cell phone in half these slasher films, all of a sudden like everyone gets away from Jason, no problem.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
this circumstance, it's almost kind of like the means to a trap. It's like this is how anybody can find you at all times. It seemed timeless, but at the same time very now, especially with influencers and other stuff too.
Yeah.
That show Generation V is brilliant when it comes to the darker side of influencers and that kind of like culture we're developing, where we post everything at all times and we're showing emotions because we're supposed to show emotions, but we don't feel those emotions. And
Yeah.
the contrast to that. So anyway, Eli Roth, I tip my hat to you.
Yeah, exactly. I felt
Hmm.
like a kid. I felt like I was watching something. I felt like I was watching something that we're going to be talking about for a while. And
Yeah.
that's going to kind of join the ranks of, like I mentioned before, it's going to join the ranks of the other classics and the other potential franchises. So that right out of the gate is a great thing. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
John Carver, great character design. I'm thinking this is going to be something we're going to see cosplayed at a lot of Comic Cons, because we work for quite a few Comic Cons, and I think we're going to see John Carver cosplay.
Yeah. It's great. Oh, and let's not forget the little nod. It's not Walmart. It's Right Mart.
Right, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah. And
It,
if Right Mart was owned by not like a conglomerate, it was owned by an individual.
yeah.
And you know,
And that actor is great, man. That guy.
so every actor in this movie is great.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Well, it's very well cast. I have to give it
Yeah.
that. I really have to give it that. Like, so the actor that plays Thomas Wright, who's the owner of Wright Mart, is Rick Hoffman.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Rick Hoffman, he was in Suits. He's been in, he's known for the Bernie Mac show. He played this character named Jerry Best. So he's great. But man, I don't know what it is, but you see that guy, when they put a mustache on him, it just makes him so, it's like he's just so, like, when he smiles and stuff, he just looks like the quintessential greedy store owner. Like, it's just, he plays it so well. So yeah. Cast is great in this. And we mentioned at the top of the show, we were lucky enough to have one of the cast members join us. He plays Deputy Bret Labelle, and his name is Jeff Teravainen. I hope I didn't screw up his name. Teravainen. And great guy, really nice guy. And Ryan, whenever we get to talk to somebody that actually has something to do with the film, it's fun because you get a whole other perspective. He seemed to really lean into his part and really be appreciative to be part of this. And, there's one point when we mentioned, that how we feel this film franchise will go, if there is one. And anyways, without any further ado, let's jump into this right now. Here's our interview with Jeff from Thanksgiving. All right. Listen, this is really fun because Ryan and I got to see this amazing movie that I never thought would get made. And then we find out that this Grindhouse trailer that people have been talking about for years and years finally gets greenlit, finally gets made. We see the movie, I think 2 days ago. And I walked out of there and I was like, this is exactly what I needed.
Oh, perfect. I've really been curious about, because I saw the original movie myself too, so I didn't know what to expect. So
right. Well, we're really happy to have Jeff with us. Jeff, you play Deputy Bret Labelle.
Yeah.
So what's it like when you get the call from whoever's casting the film? Whether, I don't know if you got the call from Eli himself, how much he had to do with casting you, if you were casted through casting agent. But what's it like when you get a call knowing that you're going to be in something that will have a special place in a lot of horror fans' hearts?
Yeah, I remember the audition more than anything. I remember reading for it and thinking, this is the biggest waste of time. I was almost one of those ones where you're angry because I got all this stuff to do, and they're going to make me audition for this role that I have no chance of getting. And yeah, I was pretty pleasantly surprised. I remember coming out of the doctor's office, my agent called me and he says, I hope you don't have everything going on in March. I'm like, what? What's wrong? Because when he calls, you know, something good or bad.
Something's up.
Yeah. And it was like, you got to be kidding me. And the funniest thing was that the first day of shooting was March 14th. And I was moving up from living 13 years in a house.
Oh, no.
We moved that morning. So it was crazy, man.
So it was like literally out of the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah, but honestly, Eli, I don't know what kind of reputation he has in terms of what you know about him, but to me, it was this intense guy that I've watched in movies, and he plays a lot of intense characters.
Yeah, of course.
Nicest guy in the world, and honestly, my favorite director I've ever worked with. So
really, wow.
Yeah. I'm not slighting anybody I've worked with in the past. There's been a lot of great ones, but Eli has just this fun mix with obviously being able to communicate. He's an actor as well. It was such a good, honestly, he's kind of spoiled. We were talking about the other day, some of the cast, how you're spoiled because, you know, you go back to guys who are thinking in 40 different ways, but acting is just one small part of it, right?
Right.
Whereas Eli, when he was talking to you, he was really in. Like you knew he knew what he was talking about in terms of acting and that. So yeah, it was great.
Something about this film that really, you know, it's no spoiler because it's kind of in the trailers and stuff, but it kind of opens with a Black Friday scenario. And what horrified me, as much as I'm scared of some masked person coming to get me in the night and doing Thanksgiving related murder things to me, I am terrified of Black Friday and the stoops that humanity will go to get a toaster or a television at a discount. When you were reading this script and you saw the kind of like the depths the deaths would go to, like, were you looking forward to like taking part in a horror film such as this, which is a real throwback to, you know, not only 80s slasher but 90s slasher as well?
Yeah. The more I read into it, the more it looked like it was going to be fun. Now, I have like a wide taste. I love things like Hereditary, say, where you leave feeling violated and that kind of stuff. But this one looked like it was going to be like an old school sort of fun one. There's a lot of fun lines and different scenarios. So that's what I've been telling friends too, that are like, there's no way I'm going to see your movie. I'm terrified of this, or I hate slashes. Like, trust me, it's not just one sort of thing. It's like, I feel like you're going to leave this like you left an amusement park. You know, you had some fun rides, laughs, some scary moments, you know, but it's not like a one-dimensional, like, this was horrifying and I need to see a priest. Something, you know what I mean? So,
well, if anything, we were curious. Like, we spent the entire movie, every few minutes we had a new theory of who did it, and that's what kept us on the edge of our seat. It's like, it really is a great mystery as well. It's just like, you know, it's not just a slasher film, it's a really engaging story, and the characters like yourself are extremely well developed, where, you know, you want to make sure everyone gets out, and not everyone does, of course, but you know,
especially ugly scenes for some people.
It's you know, it's funny you mentioned Hereditary, and we've had Ari on the show before. It's, you know, everybody approaches things differently. Ari's very cerebral, you know, but at the same time, the violence is very visceral. The violence in this movie is very visceral. It's very like almost schlocky, but it's effective. And you know, it makes you remember, like, when I go to see a slasher movie or a horror movie, I like I like it to be multi-layered, but I do like when those kills are well thought out and they're creative, and there's some stuff in here. I mean, you know, from the trailer, I was intrigued. I love the character, you know, I love the killer. I love the character design of the killer. That to me is so important. And you know, you look at, like, one of my favorite horror movies is My Bloody Valentine. And you know, the Miner is so, and this to me is right on par with the Miner in terms of like this mythical kind of holiday killer. But the kills are great. Is it fun for you as a horror fan to see these from being done on screen to, you know, later, you know, in post when the sound's added, and then seeing it in the theater with people reacting? It's got to be a great trip to see the whole process, or whatever you have seen, you know?
Yeah, I know, I've seen it a few times now, and yeah, you're right. And in fact, I was going to say, I got to give props to the sound guys, because they did such a good job. A friend of mine who watched it, who's afraid of horror movies, was like this, apparently half of it. But he when I watched it the second time, I was really listening, because he said, even though I was covering my eyes in the theater, the sound was killing him. So I thought, okay, I'll check it out. It was right. Yeah, it was like, you really get that full meal deal.
So he should have been doing this instead of closing his eyes. I see what you mean. Yeah. You need a sensory deprivation chamber to escape the horrors in which he saw and heard on screen.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people will never be eating corn on the cob the same way again.
Yeah.
And, you know, my mom always, you know, we're Canadian. I don't know. Are you Canadian or you're Canadian?
Yeah, I'm Canadian.
Yeah, so, you know, so Thanksgiving for us isn't like it is south of the border.
No, it's in October.
You know, yeah. And
I was always jealous of that.
Right. Same.
Such a big thing about it.
And especially in films, you know, like in films, it always starts Thanksgiving. It seems like these people go home for the holidays at the end of November and they do nothing for a month. It's like you guys went home for the holidays, but like you spent a month in your old town. Like, didn't you have work to do? But what always gets me when I think of Thanksgiving, and it's those little corn things that my mom had. My mom had sets of those little, they looked like corn on the cobs. They look like actual corn with the 2 picks on each end that you would put in and you would eat your corn like that. So when you see those in the movie, and it's no secret because I mean they're used in the trailer, they're used in a certain way that it's just like, I don't know if my mom sets those down again at Thanksgiving, if I'm going to be able to use those.
There's a lot of other good stuff that Eli's been cooking up in his terror kitchen as well throughout the film, as you know. So that's one of the good ones. I don't think I've ever seen anything close to that one before, but there's a few others where I was like, holy shit, you're pushing the envelope here.
You're sharing some screen time with, you know, arguably the sexiest man alive right now.
Yeah.
as he's been coined by People magazine. What's it like to share screen time with Patrick?
It's tough because he's so good looking that you leave set with your eyes kind of hurting, you know, so you try not to look directly at him. He's such a down to earth guy.
Yeah, he seems it. He really seems it.
Yeah. Like, I can't say it enough. Very like low key, hanging out, and then, you know, we'll talk a bit, and, you know, he does his thing. But it was never like the star kind of thing. There was no star treatment for him, and he was great and really super collaborative. I'll tell you something. I over the years, I remember acting opposite of tennis balls, where, you know, you're working with some big actor and they do the scene on you and they do the scene on them and the wides and the all that kind of stuff. When it's time to do Jeff, I'm looking at a tennis ball because that guy's checked out. Right. You know, whereas with Patrick, so many times I remember it was like time to do my close-ups or whatever. And he'd be like, is there anything else I can do for you? Do you need anything else? I'm thinking, smokes, man, this is a good guy, you know, because you don't always get that sometimes even with, you know, normal actors or normal level stuff, you know, they're checked out, they're reading the lines to you, but he was so good that way. I remember being really impressed with that.
And going back to Eli, you know, he's known for, you know, so much brutality and so many, like, you know, legendary kills in film. Obviously he's also known for his stuff that he did with Tarantino. I mean, you know, the Bear Jew is just like one of the greatest characters in modern cinema in terms of like just a revenge guy. You mentioned how nice he was. Were there any things that happened on set where you were just like, man, this could go either way? Like something went wrong and you were like, how is he going to react? And he surprised you?
No, honestly, the surprise was more because of me, because I've done this before. Like when I did Dark Matter, the show, when I first met Alex Malari Jr., who's the nicest guy, we become best of friends, but I expected him to be like his character. So like you said, I'm thinking Eli, and I'm seeing a couple interviews where he seemed intense, and then the Bear Jew, and I thought I better have my act together because he's going to be like this intense, you know, type guy. And again, he's the nicest guy. He's so collaborative. He's an actor, so he knows how to communicate with you. He takes the time to have fun, and he sets the tone for his sets. And I've seen that with Tarantino clips and stuff where you can tell that he loves making movies, and everybody else there does as well. And he makes an environment like that. Eli is the exact same.
Probably learned a bit from him on that.
And I'm sure, yeah. I mean, they're really good buddies as well. So, I mean, I know like Quentin will look at his scripts and his cuts and stuff as well. So those guys have spent a lot of time together, and it sure must have rubbed off on Eli, because they're two guys that love what they do, you know what I mean? And they still seem genuinely grateful. The only time I saw Eli even look a little bit concerned was when we were doing the parade scene, which was a huge scene.
Yeah.
So there was a lot going on, and you know, it's sometimes setups take a little longer. So this is the worst it got, with like guys, we got to get this done now. As opposed, I'm not like freaking out, but that was it. It was like a little tiny thing in his eyes, like, we got to get this done. So yeah, no crazy intense Eli. It was just professional, or else like really fun to be around.
I gotta say, you said Eli was very like relaxed on set. But when it came to your character, did he come with a full character? Did he develop with you? Like, I know some characters are not always directly on the page, and sometimes it's up to an actor to kind of bring a little of yourself in there. Like, how much of yourself is in this one?
Well, there's a lot of interesting things there. I don't know if I get anything away, but there's a few things we shot that didn't get in because of time wise. Good scenes, but it is what it is. And if we get a Blu-ray, then I believe those will go in and learn even more. But yeah, I mean, there's quite a backstory that was given to me. Jeff Rendell as well, like the writer as well. We talked a lot about different things. My character is an ex-Marine. If you can be an ex-Marine, you're always a Marine. But it was a special ops one from the Force Recon, and I have friends that are units, so I bug them all kinds of information, like what would people do. And that's the thing. He comes to this town as a new deputy in a new town, and then everything starts going crazy. So maybe he's the killer, maybe he's not, but bad timing, right? But he's looking at these horrifying things, and this is a guy that's been in Fallujah and all these terrible battles and stuff. So even he's affected by it. So, or is he? So yeah, it's interesting.
We mentioned that there's a lot of times where you think who's the killer and you don't. Were there ever points like did you guys know from the jump who it was going to be, or did they try to keep you guys in suspense? Because I know a lot of the times they or did you know like right off the bat, okay, we know this is who it's going to be?
The scripts that went out never had the ending.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the funny thing, is that we were guessing as well. I mean, like there was times when I read the script, I thought, I was wrong. So
yeah, you mentioned like if this gets a Blu-ray, this is definitely getting a Blu-ray. This is going to be like a celebrated release, and I think it's going to be one of these movies that like kind of like Krampus. Like Krampus is one of those ones that everybody goes back to at Christmas time. Does it feel cool to know that there's not a ton of Thanksgiving horror out there, and this is fairly unique? And what's great about this is that this is going to be something that people are going to watch every year. That's got to feel good that you're a part of something that's going to last and it's going to become a cult classic.
Honestly, that's my hope. I mean, I said what I said because I'm always afraid to jinx anything. Not that I have any power over it, but it's like, I never take anything for granted ever. But yeah, that's our hope, that this can become a major Thanksgiving thing where people watch every year, and maybe become another, like a Scream franchise, that kind of thing, where it gets a life of its own that way. I was really lucky to be part of like an instant Christmas classic. I was like the bad guy in the Christmas Chronicles, and just knowing that people every year are on Instagram send me photos of their living room with it in the background, and it's like, to me, that's the coolest thing. And honestly, yeah, because like my daughter and I, ever since she was born, we watch, say, like the Polar Express, or we watch It's a Wonderful Life, and I'll point out, I go, the bad guy, he was born in 1885, and we're still watching him every year.
Well, I'm going to call it, because we have to wrap up, but I'm going to call it, there's a lot of turkey in your future, my friend.
Sounds good, man.
It's a fine film. It's all thriller and no filler, tons of stuffing, and it's delicious.
Love to hear it.
Thanks for all the time, and thanks for the film. We really loved it, man.
Thank you, guys.
Last minute little addition to this interview. So we were in a movie theater, and I almost jumped out of my seat and disrupted many people by making a slightly loud, effeminate sound when I saw that my buddy Chris Sandiford was in the beginning of the film, and it has a very interesting scene, I gotta say. So,
he's important.
Yeah, very important, I would say.
He's very important to the film. Like when he first came, like I remember you did scream like a schoolgirl, like, "Oh my God, that's my friend Chris!" I was like, "Are you all right?"
Yeah. Dude, but shut up. There's people trying to watch this.
Not really. There's like 6 critics, but
but they were criticizing my sound.
Oh yeah, we were. And the thing is, like, we go to these movies, man, and like we're in press screenings with 5 or 6 other journalists who are all everyone's kind of just being reserved. I don't want to say too cool for school. They're just being more reserved because they're critics, right? And you and I are like, yes, yeah, whoa, like really, we're fans, and like every killer, like, yeah, oh, and it's just like that's the way
we're
to
high
watch.
fiving and stuff.
Yeah, I actually would love to go back and watch this with a full audience because I think it would be way better.
Oh yeah.
But
It was fantastic. But I feel you, like a Fantasia midnight screener or something would
oh
be
man,
glorious,
yeah.
glorious.
But all right, so we're lucky enough to have your buddy Chris, who plays a very important part. But we'll let him talk about it.
Here's the interview with Chris Sandiford.
All right, really happy to have with us on the Rockman Power Hour a gentleman who I just discovered when I watched Thanksgiving, and much to my surprise and to my pleasure, Ryan said, "That's my buddy Chris." So Chris Sandiford joining us here on the Rockman Power Hour. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat today on this Sunday morning, man.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me, guys. It's an absolute pleasure.
So you're in Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Hey, happy American Thanksgiving. So,
right.
Let's be clear about that. But yeah, for about 3 minutes. But
oh, dude, there is no, they say there's no small actors or small roles for small actors.
No small parts.
Dude, like, listen, your part, though brief, is very effective. And let me just say, like, we said this in our other interview and in our review of it, but I'm just like, it's like, as scared as I am of like a mass killer coming at me with a knife and trying to cook me in an oven, I am much more scared of a mob that wants a waffle iron for like $20 off. And the entire time I was watching the beginning of the film, which is something to behold, everybody, like, even if you don't like horror films and are just interested in the horror of humanity, you got to check this out, because I was watching the beginning and I'm like, this could happen. and I've seen you do a lot of crazy things, Chris. I've seen you hang out with vampires and What We Do in the Shadows. I've seen you in all sorts of things, and it's such a pleasure. Before we begin this, it's just such a pleasure to see that's that guy from Battle Combat. Me and Melissa both unanimously agreed, like, that is a fucking star. And then all of a sudden, it's to see the ascension of what you're doing is just really great, because I don't know, it was always there. You know what I mean? You didn't have to like turn into a disco band for everything to work. Like, this is what you did in the beginning, and now you're here and now. So now that made you feel incredibly awkward.
No, keep it coming. No, stop.
Okay.
Keep it coming. Keep it coming.
What's it like working with a gentleman that is a nice fellow in person, but on screen a very sadistic imagination, such as Eli Roth?
I will say, I couldn't believe that I got the part to begin with, but it's my understanding, like, later on when I was on set, I realized, he likes comics. He likes just funny looseness and people who aren't really precious. So he really did put together, like, the 4 days I did on set, it was like everyone was there. It was like 500 extras. The whole cast of those kids, Addison Rae and Nell Verleck and all these other guys. It was like, I couldn't believe how fun the green room was. Usually the green room, I'm an actor, but I like to say that I'm an actor with a lowercase a, just because I'm like, I'm there. I'm happy to be there. It's great work. It's so fun. Best job in the world. But I'm really, like, at heart, I'm a stand-up. I'm just a funny guy. I don't take myself too seriously.
Right.
Man, that green room rocked. It was like no one really took themselves seriously. Like, I feel bad. I didn't know about Addison Rae until working that job. I think I told some friends I was doing that movie, and some friends who are in the industry knew who she was, some like really big TikTok star or whatever. And I thought, I thought I was more intimidated. Don't get me wrong, I'm very intimidated by filmmakers, usually more so than the stars. But just hearing that made me go, okay, I don't know what to expect from the mood on the set. The vibe is like, this person going to be very diva-y? Is Eli going to be more kind of handling these people? But it was like everyone. I said this about What We Do in the Shadows. Everyone really did feel an equal part responsible for the scene that they're in. You know what I mean? You never really, I never had to subjugate myself really to be like, as much as I kind of naturally did, because I know it's a small part. But a very effective part. He kind of launches the thing. I don't want to spoil. I don't want to say too much, but I'll just say
you're like the catalyst. You're like the catalyst of
I didn't know if I could say, but yeah, I guess it's out. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, you're a very integral part of the story, and that's
I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny because we spoke to Jeff, who plays Deputy Bell. And,
okay,
yeah, and we spoke to him a couple of days ago, and you know, he was saying that Eli was just so much fun to work with, and him as well. You know, being an actor who's done a fair bit of work, but also who seems still pretty humble, was like he didn't know what to expect when Eli came on set, and he was like, man, like
absolutely
disarms you right away.
He was incredibly disarming, for sure intense when we were in those like in the middle of like, you know, a 12-hour, 13-hour day, whatever it was. And again, for those 500 extras, he knows what he wants, and he's going to get it, man. And if, you know, I think this kind of had a smaller budget than maybe, I don't know. It's a big movie, certainly. But maybe a smaller budget for a bigger movie. So like we had to get the days, man. So it's certainly intense when he needs to be. He's like a general. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which I expected, but also just so down to earth, just so fun. Like I'm learning Italian now. And in the green room, I was just like, hey man, like I hear your wife's Italian. He's like, that's right. Yeah. So wait, what's going on? Like you're Italian too? And I'm like, I'm trying to gab with him thinking that he speaks Italian because his wife speaks Italian, but he doesn't. I don't even know what that was. But he seemed to be charmed by it. And I was equally charmed by him. The dude likes sharks, which I think is so cool. Like I was like, he's talking to us about this shark documentary that's coming out. Well, it's out now, but at the time I was like, what's going on? I didn't know you were an advocate for sharks. You guys were aware of this, right?
Yeah.
No, well, I'm aware of it now. I know he likes horror movies and heavy metal and sexy 80s comedies, but now shark love is added to
he's trying to advocate for sharks, which, you know what, I learned a lot from him on set, and then a lot from another interview I watched with him, and I'm like, okay, this is a real thing. No, man, he's a surgeon when he needs to be.
Yeah.
General when he needs to be, and like a goofball as well. Like he's just, again, like in the green room doing accents from Hanover. And like, we were growing up, we watching these like commercials where the guy's like, oh, these chocolate bars are better than our chocolate. I was like,
did he ever ask you to do the Boston accent, which other people in this movie have a accent as thick as a block of ice?
Yeah, no, thank God, because don't get me wrong, like I would love the opportunity to do an accent in a thing. But he always saw my character as being maybe from like Akron or something. Like we were joking around, the accent, and out in the parking lot with all those customers. He's like, "Yeah, you're probably from Akron, or you know, just somewhere in Ohio. Maybe you're from Nebraska. Maybe you're from Omaha. Just like just a little bit of vocal diversity here. We don't want everyone, because maybe it would get too tired if everyone's being like, hey, come on, you motherfucker. I can see I don't even know what that was. That was a bit of Pesci and a bit of me.
It's fun to see, you know, just like what Ryan mentioned, like what happens. It's not fun to see, but it's fun to watch from a distance. What happens when a mob goes awry, and when the mob mentality takes over. I firsthand saw it for the first time in '93 when the Habs won the cup.
Okay.
And the riot downtown.
When
they won the cup, and then
I thought you were going to say Rodney King. Sorry.
Me too.
Like,
I was going to say.
No, I wasn't there, unfortunately. No, I saw it. Well, but keeping on that theme that year, I saw it happen in Montreal, and the crazy part was it was supposed to be a festive occasion,
right?
You know.
Right. Exactly. We won. Yeah.
It should have been something where we were just celebrating, but no. What happens when a bunch of people get together? It just takes a couple of things to set things off, and it could take one event that just sets something off. And we see this in the film. I mean, there's altercations, there's a little bit of this and that, and then boom, it just like their fuses are lit, and that's it. And nothing can stop it, literally.
Truly, nothing can stop it.
And it's scary to see. So when you're in that position where you're, you know, like you're a security guard, everyone, you know, I mean, we can say that you're a security guard in the film. At one point you're facing, you know, 500 people.
Oh,
more. But
500 extras, but implied there's even
more.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people that are looking right at you. So where do you go to in your acting toolbox to pull out what you need for that? Is it like drawing from a personal, like, do you have to go like, oh man, I got to remember when I was the most scared ever, when a bully was coming at me? Like,
Man, you don't have to go anywhere. Like,
you just have to look out at the
extras,
mob.
like, I don't like acting in front of extras at all.
Yeah. Right.
So you get enough of them in there, and it's like, shit, okay, well, now I gotta really act now for everyone here to, believe that I deserve the job. That's
Right.
literally, I'm sorry if that's not a satisfying answer, but
No,
like,
it's fine. It's
a
honest.
few times, you're looking, I've been doing this, a decade now, and every so often, you'll do a day where it's like, and thank God, like every so often you'll do a day where there's like a bunch of people, a bunch more people on set watching, whether it's extras or safety people or stunt people, depending on the day. And it just, you have to show up for yourself that much more, because it's like, well, but to get the day, it all hinges on what the camera's on. And in this setup, it might not all be about you, but for this shot, it is. And for this moment, it is. So you really do have to show up for yourself and show up for these people so everyone can go home. And then also see, so it looks good on the final, in the final film. I don't have to do much. I'll be honest with you. Where I really have to show up is like for myself, and when it's like a little scarier is when it's like a smaller emotional scene. Like those are fun to do, don't get me wrong, this is the profession we're in, but that's where I really have to kind of like small little delicate stuff. Like that day with the 500, that was so fun. Like those days, that was multiple days. I guess because it was so many people. I mean, I had the most fun, and hanging out with Tim Dillon and like joking around with him. It was like kind of a dream come true. That's like, I love, don't get me wrong, I did say I hated working in front of extras because I really have to now prove myself to them, but it's like, whatever, this is the challenge that I signed up for. I think I met it, and it was really, really fun.
Yeah, I every time I'm in a scene, I'm always, as I'm doing it, I'm always convincing myself I'm ruining the movie or show, whatever I'm in. Where like when you're watching it, you're like, oh yeah, everything was great till that one performance that was so left field and over the top and terrible. And they're like, oh God, is this some producer's nephew? Like, so I have these like little voices in my head going on there, but I do know what it's like where even the most brief coverage on screen, how long it actually takes to happen. Without giving any spoilers, how long were you down there for? Because
how long was I on the ground?
Yeah, how long were you down there for? Because let me tell you, man, as someone who hasn't seen the movie yet or whatever, I think the inner narcissist in all of us will be very pleased that you actually are on screen, and they don't cut away from you too often, man. Like it's there.
This is hard to say. It's hard to say. I was there 4 days, and I think that whole sequence, so just to get that whole sequence. So I'm going to give two answers. There was a dummy made of me.
Okay.
Get the fuck out. Really? My whole life I've always wanted a dummy.
I'll send you, I don't know how much you can show of I'll send you something that is kind of fun.
If we can get a shot of that, we'll show it up there.
Yeah. It's like the first like 7 seconds are like of ostensibly me on the ground with like crew around me sprinkling glass, but then turns around and it's me filming the behind the scenes there, laughing about that, but with glass in my face, but with makeup on and glass in my face. But you think, like, literally, I sent it to like so many people. I sent it to my mom, and she was like,
"Are you okay?"
Oh, that's not even you. The dummy I was told, this is so funny. The dummy I was told they sourced like kind of just the broad strokes of it from when Viola, what is it? I think it's Viola Davis. She's on she was in Suicide Squad, which shot here. So the guy just kept that dummy and was like, yeah, well, you guys are about the same dimensions. I guess this will just worked out. And like before they dressed it, it was a dummy of Viola Davis. But then they put they did a little bit of makeup and it looked exactly like me.
That's crazy.
Which makes me go, well, does Hollywood need another Negro that looks like Viola Davis? I don't know.
It's probably the scene where in Suicide Squad where she gets the bat across the head.
I think so. Yeah, I was
Because that's the
wondering
most
that too.
violent. Yeah, that's probably because she gets batted across the head and then she just drops. So it's probably
I literally was like, when the hell did she need? That's Waller. I forgot her name. Waller.
I just finished. It's actually I'm just in the middle of. I'm on the last episode of Peacekeeper.
Was it Amanda Waller? Wait, which actress?
Yeah, Amanda Waller. Amanda Waller. There you go.
Amanda Waller. Yeah.
You are not the same size as her.
Well, they made the dummy was for whatever reason, and
the dummy's in incredibly good shape. I don't know.
It's. I'll say this too. It fooled so many people. Fooled me as soon as they got it dressed up, like makeup and everything, and with the costume. I was like, okay, well. And I look. Not that I'm a narcissist or anything, but I look at this every day when I'm doing my morning. It's like, oh, wow, and I was convinced. The funniest thing about that is like one of the key guys that worked on that dummy also built a dummy of me for back for What We Do in the Shadows, and didn't realize I was the guy that was cast as Doug, this Right Mart security guy. So when I got into his chair, he was like, wait a minute, I've already I should have kept that thing. Like, they let the crew fucking went to town. Like, I have a friend on that crew who did some pretty wild stuff with that dummy.
Did you let me ask you?
It's my friend. It's funny. I think it's funny that I have a dummy of my friend, and she sent me so many pictures of her with it in a shopping cart near the river. And
I would have carried it around weekend at Bernie's style and just
oh my god, it literally is just me, but with my eyes closed. And that's kind of spoiling the 5th season of the vampire show, but that's been out forever now.
I'm going to say Shadows was one of those things, Chris, where Melissa and I, it's like one of our favorite shows. And when we were watching it, and it was like other thing where when you just pop on, it's like the opposite effect of Joey on Friends, where he tells everybody he's going to be on something and then they cut him out of it. I had no idea you were going to be on screen, and there you were. And then the best part about it is like, oh, there you are again and again. And then each season they give you more and more and more to do. And that just goes to show, it's like, all you actors out there, you never know what's going to happen.
You really do never know. And it's like, what a mitzvah when it does. I'm like, man, my spirit has always been like, look, as much as I want to work and get the thing and fingers crossed, you're going to drive yourself crazy if you're waiting for that phone to ring. So the moment I leave an audition or I hear if I'm in the mix for something, I try to have something to do. So I'm not just thinking about that, because it's like this business is very fickle, and it has to be because of the whims of whatever. You don't know when a pandemic will crop up, or somebody handsomer or shorter, or whatever, the right dimensions or whatever than you is going to get the part. So it's like you really can't. There's so much of it is out of your hands. So I try to do my best to forget about it. But then you get there's great gifts that happen. I thought Shadows was going to be one day, one episode, and then in the fitting, the lady's like, "Oh yeah, I've just read a new script, and we might need to make a dummy of you." And this is 4 years ago. And I'm like, "Why would you?" "Oh yeah, I've just read the new script. You haven't heard?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, she's giving it away to me before my agents even knew." And then we didn't need a dummy, but the character, this is season 2, dies ostensibly, and then comes back, and then so it's like, wow, what a great that's one of the best jobs, that one as well. It's so funny. Those guys are so incredible. You just want to rise to them, you want to rise to the occasion. I was at a table read for one of the episodes where I was we're all dying laughing at the 3 leads just very dryly just reading it's a table read. They haven't seen the script before, but just dryly, maybe doing their voices, maybe, and it's just incredible. It's just they know what anyway,
and and it's so important what you said, because I've heard this so many times from actors, whatever the part is, and this is true in anything in life, whatever you're given a chance to do, make that the best. Do the best job you can, show up. And if you're going to be that, guy who stands in the back, stand in the back like a motherfucker. You know what I mean? And it's so important because everybody, these things get noticed and they're appreciated. And you said, I remember when I did music, I did it, across Canada, probably 10 tours before we got anywhere. We had to leave Canada, had to go to the US. But by the time we got to the US, people are like, oh, who's this brand new band and who just arrived in Los Angeles? No, we'd been working at it back and forth for 8 years, honing the craft. And
exactly. And then you have chops.
And then when your chance comes, you're ready. So it's a real lesson to be learned for.
But that's it. And even if you're not ready, you just have more tools in your basket, you know. Because my philosophy is you're never really finished, you know. It's just whatever you're at, whatever time you're at, and you just feel just that much more confident because you've got all this experience.
100%.
So it's like, may the journey never end, because it's about, it's about the journey. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just like, just do this, whatever part it is. It's just like, okay, well, this is part of the story they're telling, however small the thing. So yeah, do it like you mean it. Do it like, you are imagining yourself watching this, and it's just some other guy that had the part. Imagine you're at home watching the scene. It's just like, oh yeah, I get the bit.
Yeah.
It couldn't be simpler, but it's also, couldn't be harder. You got to steel yourself. You got to get yourself out of your own ego, or at least kind of tamp down your ego a little and just serve the story. Which to me is just kind of a no-brainer. I love just stuff like this. It's a real joy to be in.
Yeah.
So it's like you get it right away. So it's easier to kind of be like, okay, I know what this is. I'm just going to do this thing. And often I can't wait for the day to be over, so I don't have a chance to put my foot in my mouth or do something wrong. Like sometimes, like I cannot wait to get out of there. Less is more,
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I'm here. I get to be with these people for a bit. I hope I don't say something stupid.
Yeah.
And then you're out. And it's like, okay, good. I think I did it.
I survived.
I survived. And I think they thought I was really cool. And then, 8 episodes later, four more seasons later, they keep bringing you back. So it's like,
awesome.
Man, what a nice thing. What a nice time that is.
Amazing, man. Well, Chris, thanks so much for stopping by. This has been absolutely great. It's always a pleasure to see you on screen. Do you have any other projects coming out this year that you're aware of and are allowed to say?
Not this year, like before the end of 2023.
Let's say early 2024 or whatever. I mean, there's about 5 seconds left of 2023 unless you're in 20 Hallmark movies.
Right. No Hallmark movies. I did a couple indie features this year. This was a big movie heavy year for me, so I feel really lucky. I did a couple indie features this year. I'm hoping they'll come out. There's one, I know there's already a screener going around for one, but I still have to do ADR for it, like literally in a couple of days. So I have no idea how close they are. But I don't know what I can say about it. So I'm sorry for that tease. There's another one that I just shot starring Dan Byrne, local actor here, Dan Byrne, directed by Sukhian Lee. And I don't know if you know Sukhian Lee, but yeah,
of course.
Canadian indie darling.
Oh yeah, man. Much music. Definitely.
It's great human being, amazing person. She directed an adaptation of her ex-boyfriend's graphic novel, Paying for It, which was huge for me because I read that in university. A friend of mine,
oh wow, man,
to this guy Chester Brown, Canadian art legend. And since then I've read a few more of his. He's just got a really cool kind of twisted. It's not, I want to say twisted, but just more. He focuses on coming of age and sexualization and what it means to be a young man that's horny, and it really spoke to me at the time, and it still does. I had to pick up a copy of his The Playboy recently just to reacquaint myself with it. Anyway, Paying for It. She's adapting that, and I'm one of the guys. And
awesome.
I'm not sure when that'll come out. 2024, I'm hoping, but we just shot it. I'm really proud of it. And then, more stuff to come. There's some video games, but those I can absolutely not talk about.
Yeah. We know the video game deal.
That for whatever reason, that's a tight-lipped situation, but I guess it's a bigger industry than movies now. So I don't bite the hand that feeds.
Just want to ask you lastly, we asked Jeff about this, and I'm going to ask you as well. Every holiday there seems to be, not every holiday, but more and more there seem to be these horror movies that break out of a holiday season that end up being yearly staples. My Bloody Valentine for Valentine's Day, April Fool's Day, Halloween, all the Christmas ones. There's Krampus, and now there's Violent Night. There's these ones that people just
that's
go back
true.
To. How does it feel to be in something that more than likely is going to be becoming a staple for Thanksgiving?
You know what? I had to reckon with that back in April when we were shooting it, where I was like, this is something that, like, I had to say, shit, this is something that I was going to see anyway.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
this Grindhouse trailer came out.
Yeah.
It was this trailer. This is how long was Grindhouse ago?
2007.
Like, the odds.
Yeah.
And I remember when that came out, thinking that trailer, like when the girls, like when the knife comes up through the trampoline, I'm like, this movie needs to be made.
Oh yeah.
And they
We've all
really
been
wanted
waiting a
to-
long time for this, man.
So that and the trailer don't, I think that may have been Edgar Wright. But I'm like, these are incredible. Those were the top two for sure. So it was like, man, when I was there and it was real to me, I was like, this is like, it doesn't even matter that I'm in this.
Yeah.
To me, like, you know what I mean? Like, I of course it's great. Like, I'm so happy to be a part of it. And I guess that's your question. So yeah, man, I'm like, I feel like that more than anything, my 3 minutes in this movie, more than the last 10 years, are going to be kind of like something I can hang my hat on. It's like, well, you know what? Okay. You were on Star Trek. Well, this is
dude. You're Doug.
I love Star Trek, and I wish I could be in it. And that is the truth. That is the truth.
Speaking of Star Trek, this month on the podcast, we're going to be giving away the Star Trek, the Picard Legacy Collection, which has
holy smokes,
everything inside of it is all based on Jean-Luc Picard. And just make sure you keep it locked on the Rockman Power Hour all month long to find out how you can win this in December.
That's all the movies, the Picard series, the Next Generation series, everything that Jean-Luc
smokes.
And that's courtesy of our friends at Paramount Home Video and Shin Communications. So
that is more than a stocking stuffer. Wow, I need some coffee.
You're stuffing a lot of things with that. Chris, thanks for taking the time, man.
Thank you so much. This is great. Jason, Ryan, amazing. Thank you.
The perfect thing about this film is that every single year I feel this drought, you can say, of happiness after Halloween goes back into the ground and Christmas starts to reel its head a little prematurely. And I say to myself, what is a definitive November film? And there's a few of them, but I can say that this one will be leading the charge from this year on.
Oh yeah, Thanksgiving finally has its horror movie, and that makes me very, very happy because we have Christmas horror films, we have Halloween horror films, we have April Fool's horror films.
If you want to count Leprechaun as St. Patrick's Day.
We have a St. Patrick's Day horror film. We have a Valentine's Day horror film. Now we've got a proper Thanksgiving horror film. So thank you to Eli Roth for that. I'm really, really excited for people to see this. It's out now. So and we're very fortunate to have seen it early. And I mean, man, I couldn't have been more excited for this one. You know, it's funny because there's all these other movies that are opening. Like there's the Hunger Games, like the 5th or 6th Hunger Game movie. I saw Napoleon on Wednesday, which is another, Ridley Scott, huge movie. But this was the movie that was coming that I was the most excited for. From the first trailer, from the first poster of the, that look of John Carver, I couldn't wait for this. And I'm glad it delivered, because if it wouldn't have delivered, I would have really been bummed. But Thanksgiving is exactly what I wanted. And I got it. I left very full and very satisfied.
Okay. Also, what I like about this movie, there is a lot of puns.
Yeah, like there will be no leftovers, like that whole thing that was on the poster and just like the promo, the promo stuff that we saw outside of the theater, like the Thanksgiving dinner setup, the table set up with that little hole where you can put your head in and you're the turkey. Like it's just
Jason, you know what's amazing?
What?
Oh my God, I just realized the acting strike ended like 5 minutes ago, right?
Yeah.
This is the first actor from an American production
that's promoting a film
that we've talked to
in quite a while.
In quite some time.
Yeah, since July. Wow. And I'm happy, and talk about it being fortuitous that this comes out and then Eli Roth and everybody can promote this. Like it can get a proper premiere. The actors, like I'm really happy, because if this kind of would have fallen under the radar, I would have felt bad. So at least it's getting its shot. It's getting its proper shot. And fingers crossed we can maybe get to talk to Eli on this show, because that would be a dream come true for me. I mean, such a great director, such a great actor, so many things I'd want to ask him about. So let's hope we can make that happen. All right. Well, listen, I want to let people know that we would not be here if it wasn't for our friends over at Heartbeat Hot Sauce. As you can see behind Ryan, who lives in a fridge, they are the heartbeat of the Rockman Power Hour. This is the very, very almost finished blueberry habanero, which you can get over at heartbeathotsauce.com. Use our promo code Rockman20 right there, and that'll get you 20% off your entire order. Also, want to let you know, in the month of December, we are going to be giving this away which we're very excited to have from our friends over at Paramount Home Video and Shin Communications. This is Star Trek: The Picard Legacy. Every bit of Star Trek Picard is in this box.
Every season, every movie.
Season, all of the Next Gen is in here. The series, the Picard series that just ended a while back. 3 seasons are in here, and all of the Next Gen cast movies are in this box, as well as a lot of other great things. There's a really cool hardcover book, some coasters, some playing cards, and it's numbered and limited to I believe 117,000.
Okay, I was going to say 117. It's like some guy in a red Star Trek outfit that's going to kick down your door right now.
All right, just to tell you, it is numbered to 11,750. So there's 11,750 sets like this in the world, and we are giving you a chance to win one of them in December. So make sure you keep it locked on our socials and on our YouTube page. And thanks to our friends over at Shin Communications and Paramount Home Video Canada for giving us this to give away in December. Thanks to Studio House Designs, and thanks to my co-host Ryan Stick. Thank you to our producer Julia Kajerski. Thank you to Promo Avenue and Sony Pictures Canada for helping us out with having Jeff on the show. We're very, very excited to have him with us. And to all of you, if you're looking for a great holiday film that'll satisfy the horror fan in you, Thanksgiving is it. Go see it now in theaters everywhere. Until next time, we'll see you on the Rockman Power Hour. Hey, thanks so much for supporting the Rockman Power Hour. We're almost 2 years strong, and we absolutely couldn't do this without your support. So make sure you click on one of these links to find our entire playlist of episodes. And if you haven't subscribed yet, right over there, hit it, and you won't miss anything.